I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, fall 2017 is the Korea semester at Missouri Southern, and today we're focusing on the semester, some of the activities, as well as having a chance a little bit later to visit with some students who spent some time there studying this summer. Joining me to start the program, Dr. Chad Stebbins with the Institute of International Studies. Thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure, Judy.
I know each year Missouri Southern has a fall theme semester. Maybe we start off with a little background for our audience on why does Missouri Southern do this? Why do we have theme semesters looking at a country or a region?
Yeah, it's a good question. And as you know, we still have a statewide mission in international or global education as a result of a Senate and House bill signed into law over 20 years ago. And so our charge from the state is to internationalize the campus, provide every student with some type of a global experience, and we do that through a number of different programs. Study abroad, for example, foreign languages, majors in international business and international studies, but we found that we can reach virtually every student with the theme semester. And the idea is to choose a different country or country every fall semester, and then by the time a student graduates, he or she would have been exposed to 4 or 5 different countries or cultures. Okay. So we bring the world to the campus, we bring the world to the community. All of our events are open to the public as well. But virtually every student will attend at least one theme semester event every year. And
I know you have a wide variety of events, which we're going to talk about today, and people don't realize the planning that goes into this. Korea, of course, everybody's saying, well, that's timely. They decided to do a big international issue. But a lot of work went into planning this before the headlines started making news.
You know, originally, Dr. Julio Leon chose the country every year, and he would choose 3 or 4 years in advance. And he would study it, and he would try to predict which countries would be in the news, which countries would be the focus of the world's attention. And since he retired, the charge is now up to the faculty, who do the same thing. We get out our crystal ball and we take a look, where is the world's attention going to be focused on next fall? And a year ago we thought, you know, we think Korea might be the hotbed of activity in fall of 2017, and so we chose the Korean Peninsula. Right. North Korea and South Korea. The focus is going to be on South Korea, a celebration of their heritage and their culture, but at the same time we can't ignore what's going on with North Korea. And we have, I think, 4 specific programs focused on North Korea, but other than that, we're going to be focusing more on the southern half of the Korean Peninsula.
So really focusing on a lot of things from Korea history to culture to government. As we'll talk today, a lot of variety of events involved. And I imagine the faculty are also involved in this planning, coming up with the ideas.
Right. We begin planning in January, and we have frequent meetings. We start out brainstorming what are the issues important to Korea, what should people know, and then we kind of narrow it down, and then by June or July we have a full schedule in place. So a year from now, if you want to know where the world's attention is going to be focused, it's going to be Scandinavia.
So that's next year's next year's program.
So something big will be happening in Sweden, Norway, or Denmark. You can count on it.
It always works out till you get the headline semesters. Yeah. And of course you have a nice brochure that we'll be referring to today, and that really at a glance people can see week by week everything you have planned throughout the semester.
We do have over 30 activities planned for the Korea semester. We have something for everyone. We do have 10 films. We can talk more about those later. We have some food tasting opportunities, of course, several lectures. Our art department is doing an exhibition based on their trip to Korea.
As we're talking now, that's on display. Right?
So really quite a range of activities.
Okay. Well, when you're planning these activities, I know you have the students, but you mentioned the public. It's open to the public, so even though you may have something Tuesday at 9:30, people can come in from off campus for these events.
Yeah, certainly, and we do encourage the community to come out. Everything is free and open to the public with one exception, a Korean meal on September the 12th. But we do see quite a people from the community at our lectures and at the films. And I mentioned the Korean Film Festival, and there are 10 films, and we've produced this little passport. And if you attend one of the films afterwards, you can get your passport stamped. And the students who attend the most films get a little prize at the end of the semester. Okay. But we have found that the community members like to get their passport stamped as well.
And those are free as well.
So. Yeah, And so, you know, we may have 30 or 40 people from the community out for one of our films on a Tuesday evening.
So those are evening films. They can come in on Tuesdays in the evenings throughout the semester to watch those.
Tuesday at 7 o'clock in Cornell Auditorium in Plaster Hall, which is the School of Business building.
Great, okay. And then those all, of course, all this information in the brochure will also be on the website. If people are going along and they miss something we say, we can follow up on that. But when starting the semester, after the show is recorded, I mean, it's recording now, but before it airs, you'll be having some background, you know, top 10 things you need to know about Korea, religion, some basics, kind of setting the scenes about Korea.
On September the 7th, the governor's wife is going to visit, Sheena Greitens. Right. And actually, she's not visiting because she's the governor's wife. She's visiting because she is an expert on Korea. The University of Missouri earlier this year opened an Institute for Korean Studies, and Sheena Greitens is the co-director. And she is coming to Missouri Southern on September the 7th to talk about North Korea. She's an expert on the Asian dictators, and so we're looking forward to that event.
What kind of reaction have you heard since we do hear about North Korea and the dictator and the threats in the world right now, reacting to this semester?
Well, people think our selection of Korea, of course, is very timely. You know, people are not quite sure what to expect with North Korea and Kim Jong-un. He's certainly doing a lot of saber rattling. You know, how seriously can we take him? Should we take him? And so I think because we've chosen Korea, that there will be a lot of interest in people coming out to our events to maybe gain some insight into his character and what makes him tick.
And of course, for students on campus, they've only known a North and a South Korea. You have to go back a few generations before you find those that knew as one peninsula being called, the whole peninsula being called Korea.
And then we still have some Korean War veterans in the Joplin area who will be coming out too.
Providing that. So some of the other things you have, in addition to the history and that type of thing, you also have, I call them kind of fun events. You have some dance involved, some hands-on taekwondo, things like that.
Our students are getting involved too. They have planned a couple of the workshops on the Korean games and on what they call K-pop, Korean pop music. And we've had students who've studied abroad in Korea who are in charge of these workshops. And so that's kind of an added twist, something specifically for our students. I'm not sure the community would want to come out for...
But for the younger students on campus.
Absolutely.
You mentioned students studying abroad, so we have exchange agreements where our students are able to go to Korea and study, and then vice versa, their students come here.
Yeah, we now have 3 agreements with universities in Seoul, Korea. 2 have been established for a couple of years, and 1 is brand new. And these are exchange agreements. We send students there, they send students here. They send us quite a few more students than we send to Korea. But we're delighted to have all of these students on campus, and some of them will be participating in the activities as well.
So they get to share some of their culture while they're here and working together. You mentioned the food, and I know that's always a popular event every theme semester. And for people who haven't been to it, it's really a good time to taste and experience the culture of the meals.
Right. I wish Joplin had a Korean restaurant so that people could take advantage of that marvelous cuisine. But if you go to Springfield, there are, I think, 5 Korean restaurants. And we're fortunate that one of them is coming on September the 22nd. There's a restaurant called Jin's Korean Grill, and the chef is coming on September 22nd at 11 a.m. to present a cooking demonstration and to give some samples. And you know, the Korean food is, they like their kimchi, they like their barbecue, they like to cook over open grills. And so if you haven't had Korean food, there are certainly some opportunities. On September the 12th, our campus food service provider, Fresh Ideas, is doing an all-Korean meal in the Mays Student Dining Center, which is open to the public. So for, I think it's $8.41, you can sample quite a bit of Korean food, all you can eat. And I'm particularly looking forward to that event.
Well, I know you mentioned the food, and I know you had an opportunity to visit Korea in the spring, firsthand account.
Yeah, I visited our partner universities and the new university, Deksung Women's University, where we signed an agreement. And it was my first time in Korea and wasn't sure what to expect. And even in April, tensions were very high between South and North Korea. And I noticed in my hotel room I had a gas mask.
Something you don't find when you check into a hotel.
First time I did ever come across one of those. And one of the universities took us to the demilitarized zone, the DMZ.
Which is the line between the North and South, right?
Yeah, and that was really fascinating. You know, there literally is a kind of a barbed wire fence separating North and South Korea, and there's kind of a no man's land on either side of this fence. And both sides are projecting blaring music out into the other side.
So a battle of music, basically.
Yeah, through loudspeakers. And I noticed on the North Korean side, it looked like there was a substantial community. And I was curious about that. You know, some high-rise buildings and
kind of more development than you would expect.
And you can look through binoculars or a telescope at North Korea. And so I asked one of the guides, and he said it was just a facade, just a phony building, a phony city that the North Koreans had put up to kind of fool people into thinking that North Korea was more substantial than it actually was.
So there's a lot of propaganda going on back and forth there.
Yeah, and on both sides. You know, we often think it's all coming from
the North
Korea, but certainly South Korea is doing its fair share of trying to spread its message across into North Korea. And certainly a lot of North Koreans have defected to South Korea.
And have you encountered any families who maybe still have relatives on the other side of the line?
Oh, sure. I mean, personally, I haven't encountered those, but I've read accounts. And once a person defects into South Korea, you know, chances are almost nil that they'll ever see their family again. But the South Korean government does do quite a bit to help them resettle. They give them quite a generous stipend to help them start their new life in South Korea. And you know, one question I asked my host when I was there, you know, again, this was April, this was when tensions were already high, you know, what the South Koreans felt and if they were alarmed, if they were nervous.
It's making headlines in the U.S., what's happening there?
Yeah, and his reaction was, no, it's just kind of business as usual for us. You know, this has been going on for 60 years.
That's right.
And so we're used to it, and we don't get too excited about it now.
So officially, the Korean War never really ended. You just had a truce.
Just kind of a ceasefire.
Ceasefire, right.
Right.
Stop. So their whole life is centered on we're a divided country. We haven't resolved this situation for many years.
And some of the South Koreans will tell you privately that they are not all that keen on an idea of a unified Korea. They are worried, you know, if the North Korean government would collapse and you'd have all those thousands upon thousands of people flooding into South Korea, it might throw their economy into turmoil. You know, how could they handle all those people needing assistance?
And of course, you talk about the economy, and there's a lot of our businesses that are based in Korea. We think of major manufacturers or electronics and so forth. People don't realize the economic impact that country has on the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, certainly, you know, Samsung and your car manufacturers, and South Korea is really the most modern country you could ever visit. And it's such a contrast then to go north, and you know, I wish I could visit North Korea, but I don't think that'll happen.
It would be a step back in time if you cross the line, right, and tying that together. Well, I know there's a lot going on. If people who are watching would like information, these brochures are available on campus. You have your website. How else can they get? You have a Facebook page as well?
Probably the best way is to go to the Missouri Southern homepage and look for a schedule. There's a link there. And they can get access to all of our activities. And there's, you know, 2 or 3 activities every single week up through November. Great.
Well, Chad, I'd like to thank you for visiting with me, providing some information for our audience. We mentioned the art students this summer. I know you had some students from Missouri Southern go to Korea and study art, and they put together a little presentation that's going on right now in the art department here at Missouri Southern.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to stop by the Spiva Art Gallery and check that out.
Okay, so as we move on to our next segment, I invite you, the audience, to watch this short little video we have showing you a little bit, a teaser more or less, of the Korean art show here at Missouri Southern. Thank you. Welcome back to Newsmakers. As we mentioned in the first half of the program, some of our students at Missouri Southern had an opportunity to travel to Korea this past summer on a special exchange program. 6 students, we have 3 of them here today joining me on the set. We have Brianna, Kaytlin, and Vivian. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Discuss your decision to be able to travel and for a summer program like this to Korea. What sparked your interest? Why did you decide to go?
Well, me initially, I just wanted to learn more about the Korean language, and I knew we'd be taking Korean language classes, so that's the main reason I wanted to go.
Okay.
I've been pretty interested in the Korean culture for a while, and I saw this opportunity to really expand my knowledge, and so I took it.
How about you?
At Southern, they have a really good thing with sending students to study abroad at a really affordable price, so it was kind of a spur of the moment, and I took my chance there.
Great. And I want to let the audience know both of you are international studies majors,
Yes.
and you're communication majors, so this really ties into your major, your areas of interest, being able to study and travel abroad. Dr. Stebbins mentioned the different universities we have exchange programs. Explain to me the university where you went and what that was involved.
Yeah, we went to Honsung University, and it's a partner school, and it's my favorite.
And it's in Seoul?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Describe for our audience Seoul. We hear the word Seoul and we think, oh, it's a city in Korea, but it's a massive city, correct?
It is a very massive city. I'm not sure how many millions of people, but there's millions of people. It's a little crowded, but it's very beautiful.
Okay. So the university itself, it's an urban school then, it's in the middle of the city?
Right in the center of Seoul, yeah.
So the program, you were there representing Missouri Southern. Were there other students from other schools at the same time for this summer
Yes.
program?
Yeah, there's students from Mongolia.
Scotland, Malaysia, and a lot from the U.S. also.
Yeah, a lot from here.
So a lot of other universities in the U.S.
Yeah,
still there.
a couple from Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
and-
yes.
Yeah.
And Egypt?
In Egypt, yeah.
Oh, so you were able to interact through your classes and your activities with these other students. So kind of an international melting pot. If you know what I'm talking. So how long and when did you go? As far as what was the timetable for your trip?
I believe it was about a month.
4 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And for people who are watching, especially students, they're saying, well, you took courses. Does this count for academic credit? You come back and say, I've got a course.
We got 3 credits in like Korean culture and then 1 credit in Korean language. So 4 credits total.
Okay, so it helps you on filling in your transcript and your steps toward degree. Let's talk a little bit about the academic side of things first. You had courses, so what was the coursework or what was the academic side of the experience?
We also took Korean politics. That was like our main course, which was my favorite course. And then Korean art and
We took
Korean,
language,
Yeah,
also,
language
and history.
and history. Yeah, those are the 4 main courses.
Great. So were these like seminar courses where you interacted and shared information with a professor, or how did they approach that?
Yeah, it was mainly lecture oriented. So they would talk to us for a few hours, and at the end we had only a couple final exams, so it wasn't too rigorous or intense, which was nice.
So as you were learning about these things, then the opportunity came to see firsthand some of the things they were talking about? So you
Yes, it was very amazing, especially during Korean history classes. We would learn about things such as the Joseon Dynasty area, and we would go to museums and see actual artifacts. It was really cool.
Well, I know you have some pictures, and for the audience's sake, I'd like to call up some of those pictures, and we can describe. It's always great to talk, but let people visualize what you had to see through your experience. So our first picture, if someone could describe what we're looking at here.
And that is downtown Seoul. So that was close to our school, and like just right around like the corner of our dorms, there was just like so many restaurants and noibang, which is like karaoke rooms, and things that we went out and explored each night.
So you got to become a citizen of the city, going out and explore the city and see what was happening there. So great. Let's go on to the next picture then. I love Seoul. Tell me about this.
Well, that was downtown near
Yes.
Gyeongbokgung Palace, and that was just like a little tourism thing that they had set up, and that's like Seoul's slogan. I love Seoul, and so we got to take photos in front of it.
Now, some people may not realize there's an upcoming Olympics going to be over
Yeah.
there.
Yes.
So was there a lot of excitement building about that?
Yeah.
It was.
They had a lot of, they were building a lot of the sets and, and everything for the Olympics, so that we saw that a lot of advertisements about the Olympics.
So they're really promoting their city and getting ready for the big event coming up. So let's go on to the next picture. Curious about this. What are we looking at here?
Those are lanterns.
Decorative? Or
Decorative. I think that was in one of the Buddhist temples. Those are decorative lanterns, and they would like put their prayers on the lanterns and then put them up and send them up.
So you were able to learn about the religion, that type of cultural aspect of their society as well. So traveling to the temples and seeing what they have along those lines. Okay. Next picture.
I think that was in Gyeongju.
Yeah. It looks like part of a temple in Gyeongju, which was a historical city that was really important during the Shilla dynasty.
So you were able to go to these exact things that you learned about in the class. They talked about the dynasty. Let's go see where this was headquartered and carrying it through along those lines. So going beyond just being a tourist, though, you're learning more history than we would if we just took a tourist trip.
Yes. So much history.
How about in this picture?
I believe that was also in Gyeongju, and that's just another one of the temples that we were able to visit.
It looks like a lot of intricate artwork on that temple.
Yes.
What was your impression when you saw how detailed that type of work is?
It was a little surreal because all of their buildings are kind of similar in that way, but very intricate.
And people might say, how old is that building?
Oh.
I mean, we're not talking like 100 years old. It's very old.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, yeah.
So when you talk in terms of dynasties, these buildings have been there for a long time, and they've preserved them throughout those years. They're well preserved. Okay, go on to the next picture.
That's South Korea's flag.
So if you come to Missouri Southern right now with the Korea semester, you will see their flag as one of the flags on display. But mountains in the background. People are kind of curious. Tell us a little about the geography, the landscape that you encountered over there.
A lot of hills. There's a lot of mountains that you can hike, and what surprised me a lot, I never thought about going to Korea, but I was really excited once I learned, because I never realized the amount of nature that they have even in Seoul. It's very beautiful.
So even though it was a real urban area, you had a lot of green space, a lot of some pretty sights to see. So they're looking off in the distance here, the mountains. This picture was in Seoul, looking out to the country more or less, tying that together. Okay, next picture. Night scene. Is this overlooking Seoul?
Yes, this was when we went to visit the 63 observation deck, which is like one of the tallest buildings in Seoul. And we got to look out and see Seoul at night, and it's beautiful.
It looks like the lights kind of spread forever there. You really can see the size of the city as it goes throughout the area. So, okay, going on to the next picture.
This was also in downtown Seoul, and there was just huge skyscrapers as well. But then you'd turn and there'd be like a building like we saw in Gyeongju. So it was like history mixing with modern day buildings.
So they've built up, but they haven't necessarily torn down the history, and they keep building up around that. Dr. Stebbins mentioned in the first half of the show about major companies like Samsung and the auto manufacturers, the economy. Did you get a sense of that walking around Seoul?
Yes, so we actually went to the Samsung Museum, and we can see definitely their influence in all the products that they've made that are sold in Korea.
So you had that feel that you are in an economy, a strong economy there with the developments around you. Okay, next picture.
That is apartments, actually. A lot of people don't know this, but there's not that many homes, like houses in Korea. Everyone lives in an apartment.
So high-rise apartments, we can see.
And that was just a couple that we saw. A lot of people were surprised at that because they thought, oh, are those hotels? Those are apartments.
So how did the transportation? They have a lot of public transportation?
Yes, it was awesome.
So you found it very easy to use.
Oh yeah, even though we were foreigners, we really learned how to use the bus or the subway system like in 1 or 2 days. Honestly, it's not hard.
So it's designed to handle the millions of people living in the high-rise apartments that we're seeing. Hey, next picture. Here's a group picture. Tell me about this group picture.
This was, we went to the LG Twins baseball game there, and we're all in our LG Twins jersey. In the middle was the director of the program, David, and it's his favorite team, so we all supported him and bought jerseys.
So baseball, a big sport? People follow baseball a lot?
Yeah, it's a huge sport.
Well, I know here in the United States, Major League Baseball, we do have some Korean players. You know, so do they follow the players who've made it to the major leagues here in the States?
Yeah, and actually at this game there was about 3 or 4 Americans on the LG Twins team too, and that we were really surprised at that too.
So an international sport being followed big, and it looks like a pretty good sized stadium there too. Did they have a big crowd that night?
That night it was raining, so we didn't have as big of a crowd, but it was still really fun. People were cheering and chanting, and
So the experience you would have going to a major league game here, you have that type of excitement supporting the teams there. Hey, next picture. Going through a tunnel?
Was that in Dongdaemun?
This was in Dongdaemun.
Yes.
Vivian actually got to meet a very popular K-drama actor in Dongdaemun.
It was very interesting because I was just wandering Seoul with my friends, and then we ran into him while he was filming a commercial, which we saw about a month later. It was very cool.
So you were able to watch the production, then see the final production later on television. So you never know who you would run into or encounter as you're out in the community. Okay, next picture. Kind of a selfie?
This is me and Bree with our Korean buddy, Jae-hui. There were Korean buddies who were assigned to like watch over us and become our friends really, and yeah, it was really great.
So she was able to take you around, kind of be your guide,
Yeah.
help you get places, and
Yeah, help us order food and stuff like that.
And I imagine you made some lifetime friendships that way too.
Oh, yeah.
You know, keeping in touch afterwards when you had to return.
Yes.
Hey, next picture.
Oh.
Another
This
group.
is us shopping in Myeongdong, some of our friends. We're wearing those masks because I actually wasn't feeling well that day, and so just to, Korea is a big thing about like health, being like healthy,
Right.
and so just to protect other people from getting sick, you wear masks.
Yeah.
And also, Vivian, I think you're wearing it because of the air, or were you also sick?
I was also sick.
Yeah.
It was a really dense city, and especially when you're packed in the subway, you don't want to cough on other
Right.
people.
Yeah.
So it's preventing that spread of germs in a, when you're in a crowded location.
Yeah.
And so forth. Okay, next picture. Having some food.
Yeah, this is actually was like the couple days before everyone was leaving. We had our farewell dinner. We had Korean barbecue, and it was just a group of us enjoying our last couple days together in Korea.
So you learned a lot of different foods. You got to taste and sample a lot of what they have from the Korean culture of food. You're looking forward to this fall semester being able to taste it again, right? Okay, next picture.
Oh, this was fun.
Tell me about this. What are we doing here?
We got the chance to experience Taekwondo, so we were taught by a professional over there, and that's us.
You're doing it hands-on experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, one more picture. I think we have. And here we are, a group.
Oh yeah, that's us and then a friend of ours from Scotland, Aisha, and that was one of our first, actually our first activity. We went to go to the mural art village.
Yes.
And then that was actually also in the middle of the city, but then right behind us were these beautiful mountains.
So you've got the mountains and the greenery right there in the middle of the city, off in the distance. So, well, if someone were to come up to you and ask you, you know, should I consider studying abroad? You have 3 students who have done. What would you recommend to students here at Missouri Southern?
I'd recommend Korea as your #1 option because it's just an amazing, beautiful country, and I love it.
And learning the language, you're able to communicate. And
You really grow a lot as a person when you study abroad, so I highly recommend it if you get the chance.
Is it whet your appetite to want to do it again?
Of course, I would do it a million times over, just because not only do you get to experience an entirely different culture that you wouldn't learn here, but you also make long-lasting friendships with everyone around the world. We still talk to people from Scotland, sometimes Mongolia, sometimes Malaysia, and our friends from Korea still.
So those fellow students they're still keeping in touch with.
Yes.
That's great. Well, I'd like to thank the 3 of you for joining me today on this part of the program, sharing with our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, the audience, for tuning in this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. I'll see you again next week at the same time on this station.